Welcome to Mac Notables on MacVoices. This is the Talk of the Mac community. I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, Mr. Christopher Breen is back for the first time in 2015, and maybe the last, actually. Chris, great to see you.
Hi, Chuck. Nice to see you as well.
So what's going on, Chris?
Nothing.
No, not much. Not much. No news or anything.
Oh, I have a new job.
I heard you were joining Apple's board of directors, yeah.
No, I have not said Apple.
Okay.
Simply a popular company based in Cupertino.
Okay. Well, that narrows the field down a little bit, but I'm sure there are one or two other companies in Cupertino. So yeah. There's a very nice deli. So. I heard that.
Yeah.
I heard that.
So I'll be making ham sandwiches.
Yeah. Well, first of all, congratulations on a new job.
Thank you.
Wherever it might be.
Thank you.
And second, there are a lot of implications here because first of all, that means you are leaving, or is it fair to say you've left Macworld, the magazine that used to be the website that is?
The thing, yeah. Macworld, IDG, and I have parted company. My last day was on Friday, so now I am just Chris Breen, private citizen, because I don't start my next job for about 2.5 weeks, and that's good because I have 20 plus years of stuff in my office and my brain, and I'd like to clear it out before I start my next adventure.
Having changed jobs, it's a very wise move to take just a little bit of time in between and reset. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because it's going to be such a change to everything I do that I wanted to have a little time to just kind of let some of the other stuff dissipate and then start fresh.
The ground rules of this discussion, of course, are that, we're not going to try to trick you or badger you into giving us any information, but there are a few things.
Okay.
Does this mean that I'm not going to see all those early morning photos from the beach that send my blood pressure through the roof?
Well, it depends when the sun comes up. I will certainly do my best to continue taking pictures of the beach. But because I'm now going to be commuting to work some of the time, I expect a lot of that commute will take place in the dark because I will be doing this early in the morning. And I have a pretty decent camera. It shoots well in low light. But, if there's no light, I'm not sure how that's going to work. But I do sort of feel like it's my responsibility to share this lovely scenery around me with people who are less fortunate. So I'll do my best. Or maybe I'll just double up on the weekends.
Okay. Have I mentioned that right now, and I'm dead serious about this, as we're recording this, we have whiteout conditions outside.
How cold would that be?
Honestly, I don't know. This morning when I woke up, it was 1.
1 what?
1 degree. 1 lonely little degree.
There is no such thing as just 1 degree.
There was here this morning. And I feel bad about even talking about it, given some of the things that are happening farther north and to our friends in Boston. But still, so they must hate your photos even more than I do.
I would think so. It's about 72 degrees here right now, and it's lovely.
Ouch. Oh, my. Chris, this is... this is bittersweet because, of course, this also means that this would be a swan song from Mac Notables, which you're the first one that we've had drop off for a good reason, not any other way. So, this we have, hard to believe, we have a 10th anniversary coming up in October.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, part of this is that I, as a public person, disappear. And I knew that going into it. That was certainly one of the struggles I had when I was considering a new position and a new career. But it's fine. I've been in the public for most of my career, and certainly a lot in the last 10 to 15 years. And I've done that enough. And it's okay. I like speaking to people. I like shooting my mouth off, as you well know. I like performing. But I can be a grown-up too and not do that. I have other outlets. As you know, I'm a musician. I get to perform that way. And so I'll miss it, but it's okay.
That's good. I would think that would have been one of the major challenges here because you have been such a public face in the Mac community, not just for Macworld, but also for Chris Breen. And this is going to be quite a big change.
It will be a big change. But the perks that come with being a known internet guy, are not all that great. I mean, it certainly opened some doors for me. I wouldn't have been able to write the books I have without it. Doing the lynda.com stuff I did, it certainly speaking at Macworld Expo and speaking to users groups. Without being that public person, you don't get those kinds of opportunities. And so it's been great. I really appreciate that part of it. But otherwise, it's not like I walk down the street and people say, "Ooh, there's Chris Breen." Ooh. And now that there is no Macworld Expo, at least it's on hiatus, I don't have that sort of big stage opportunity once a year that I enjoyed as much as I did. So the opportunities have decreased, and the fact that I've done it long enough now don't make me long for it as much as I did. It's like it's not something I have to shoot for anymore. It's just there. You have the opportunity to go out and do that. I did, and now not doing it is okay.
I don't know how to break this to you, but there were times that walking down the street, people would look over and say, "Hey, there's Chris Breen."
That was my family.
No, in fact, you may not remember the first time we met, but at that point, you were. I mean, we had not met, and you're the guy in the magazine. You're Chris Breen. And do you remember this story?
I don't remember exactly the first time we met, but I may not have been sober. So.
No. It was none of that. No,
Really?
No, it was a New York Macworld Expo. I won't even begin to try to guess the year, but there were a group of us. I think it was after the expo, and a group of us were going to go out the next day and do a little touristy stuff. And you said, "Well, call me," and so. You gave me a number, and so I called you the next day and as we were going and woke you up.
Okay, now I remember. Yeah.
And it's like, holy cow, I just woke up Chris Breen. Oh my God.
No, I do remember that. I remember where we went to.
Yeah. So that was a little water under the bridge there.
Well, clearly I didn't hold it against you. I'm still talking to you.
No, you showed up and you were very kind, and I think I still have some photos somewhere from that trip. So
I think you bought me breakfast, and I think that,
yeah.
That absolves all sins.
Yeah, I'd have done a lot to stay in your good graces at that point. Oh my! So I don't know what are we all going to do without your Mac 911 wisdom? What are we going to do without your commentary? What am I going to do without somebody to argue music with?
Well, I would just give up. I just think this is the end of your life, and why bother carrying on? Just head out into the snow, try to do the noble thing, and walk into the whiteout and just freeze like Jack Nicholson.
Thanks a lot.
Well, I make fun of it because there is so much good stuff happening out there. There's so many sites now that are doing wonderful work. And it is, Macworld is certainly one of them. And they're going to carry on. They're going to have an announcement about somebody who's going to be doing some of the work that I was doing. And I think everybody will be thrilled when they find out who that person is. They are looking at some new initiatives that I think are going to be very interesting. I'm not privy to all of them now that I've left, but as I was on my way out the door, it sounded like, wow, they're going to do some cool stuff. So people should not give up on Macworld, and they ought to continue paying attention because they're doing great stuff. But there's also stuff happening in iMore. Renee Ritchie is doing great things, along with Peter and Serenity and everybody else over there. The old Tua people have reformed and started their own trio, and that's great stuff. Gruber still does great stuff. The nice thing about the world today versus when I was coming up, when I came up, there was Macworld and there was Mac User and Mac Week. And that was kind of it. And then users groups, who would talk to each other. But now that because of the internet, we have all these outlets and all these brilliant people who now have access to us, and we have access to them. Before, you had to try to get into one of these publications, which was really hard to do. And now anybody with a decent voice who's smart is going to get noticed after a while. And so me leaving is perfectly okay. People can find out the same information that I found out to answer questions. And it could be that Mac 911 lives on. I don't know what their plans are for it. So somebody else may pick that up and carry on. I think so because, Q&A columns are are very popular. Everybody's got problems with their stuff and wants to know how to do things and have somebody to ask. And so I think it's a good fit for anybody. So maybe they'll keep it.
It's been such an evolution, and you obviously were not the only person at Macworld. You were one of the.
No, I was.
You were.
Me.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then there you go.
Jason Snell, puppet.
Well, I meant after the big transition.
Oh, that, yeah, but no, even before.
Yeah. Oh, even before.
Oh, it's all me.
And now,
from 1997, all me.
Now I'd like to bring on the line Mr. Jason Snell to join us.
No.
Oh, no, it's you've been probably the most public of the pre-change people that stayed on, and that's not to say, because the articles have continued to be great. You've got some contributors coming back, new people throwing in their towel, and I see a bright future for that too. It's just a little bit different future.
Well, it is different. It's I think we're seeing the changing of the guard, and we have been for quite some time. When I came up, I was sort of the new kid. Everybody's the new kid at one point or another. But at that time, the established names were Adam Angst, Bob Levitas, Andy Anatko, Lon Poole over at Macworld, David Pogue, Deborah Branscombe, Stephen Levy. And those are the people that I sort of aspired to hang out with. It's like, wow, someday, maybe I'll get an article in one of these magazines. And to get a column would have been just amazing. Like, no way. Because I'm a musician. How am I ever going to rate that kind of thing? So a lot of these people have kind of come and gone, or they've moved on to greater ventures. And now those are sort of the gray-haired elders of this group. But now we have new people coming up. Renee Ritchie, I don't think he's in his 20s still, but he's kind of a new voice, and he's a new kind of energy. Serenity is certainly a new voice that's come in. A lot of people are starting to come up, getting established, and they're the generation that matters now. I think Jason Snell is probably at the top of that generation. I would say that he and I are slightly different generations, even though we've both been in the business so long, but largely because I started late at 30 and he came in really young as an intern, I think, at MacUser. So, some of the old voices are fading, but there's so much new energy in there. And interestingly, and I think you've probably seen this as well, that we're hearing a lot of developer voices now, and we didn't before. So you've got people who are actually writing code, talking about it, and leading the charge in a lot of ways. And part of that, I think, is because of the advent of mobile apps, that we're seeing some smart people who are doing great work and commenting on the industry in which they belong, versus they were just kind of people in the back room before. You didn't hear much about them, except for people like maybe Rich Siegel, who was known. But there were only a handful of developers. Now we're hearing far more from them, which I think is so encouraging, because unlike that early generation, very few of us were trained as computer experts or engineering people. We were writers or musicians or artists or linguists who happened to have a passion for this technology, and then we're able to use our talents as wordsmiths to explain it. But now you've got people that thoroughly understand the technology and can write and can comment on trends as well. So I think that's incredibly encouraging.
Interesting that you would put it that way. We've talked so much about the democratization of communication and publication, and in the case of what we do here, audio and video. And I'm just wondering if now we're seeing the results of that full bore. We're seeing some of the old line sites have to adapt, and in some cases close down. Your point about the developers is an excellent one. There are a number of great developer podcasts out there that are by developers for developers. They wouldn't mean a lot to me, might mean something to you a little more, but I don't know. So, it's just we're all sliding into our little niches and trying to find that overarching coverage and coverage model and interest levels is a bit of a challenge.
Well, but we also have, as I was saying before, in terms of exposure, we now have the ability to address these small audiences. I mean, you couldn't maintain a publication for very long that was really devoted to iOS developers, for example. Now we have podcasts. And so if you have an audience of even 1,000 people that are passionate about that one thing, that's worth your while. And maybe you can attract enough advertising to keep you going, or you're doing it as a hobby, but it's a passionate hobby and you want to keep that information going. So that's part of the democratization, is that the avenue in is so inexpensive now. You don't need the big company to do it anymore. You have to learn how to podcast, how to produce decent podcasts. You've got people like Lex Friedman now who are taking advertisers and putting them together in packages so that you can get that kind of ad without having to hustle them yourself. You just simply make a connection with Midroll or somebody else, or with Dave Hamilton in one of his outfits. So that you have some way to support what you're doing, bringing in a little money, but make it worth your while so that you can keep producing this kind of great content. And then you're traveling in circles where you're talking to really interesting people all the time. These developers don't live simply in a cave and never talk to each other. There's a lot of collaboration going on. So to see that brought to life where they're sharing information with people who want to do that or are already in that business is terrific. And so good for them.
Maybe we should be celebrating some of this. And I'm very serious about this. The idea that a lot of the old impediments have been swept away. And yes, it's disruptive and it's not always fun and not always without some pain. But there's so many more opportunities for so many new people, different people. You just have to look at it a little bit differently from the other side of the fence.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a little more work on the listener's side or the reader's side, in that you have to figure out who you want to pay attention to and what's worth listening to. I think the downside of it is that there's an awful lot of navel gazing going on. I think when people talk about technology now, it isn't so much about, I mean, it's certainly about the tools and how to do things and reviewing things and what's good and what's bad, but there's also a lot of punditry, some of which I think is not worth doing. A lot of sort of guesswork, like, ooh, what's Apple going to do now? Or what's this company doing now? And a lot of judging, because I'm a fan of this and therefore they're evil. A lot of, hey, I got this story first and you're a loser. And, so like all things, there's competition and some of it can be kind of petty, and people being so passionate about things can sometimes lead to ridiculous friction. Who likes this pair of headphones and who doesn't, and why that's a horrible thing, and why you're a terrible person because you like the sound of this versus that. You can get caught up in this stuff and cause friction where it's not needed.
Yeah, and we both know, we both could call out some names of shows and people who engage in that kind of activity. And I'm with you. I think it's kind of useless. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and there's so few right answers to so many of these things, short of, does the app crash or not? I mean, then that's pretty objective, but the rest of it, it's find what works for you. And by all means, listen to credible people like Chris Breen, because he's got quite the body of knowledge and work out there. So
you have the chance.
Yes, and research that, and some other people. But make your own decisions by all means.
Yeah, I'd get caught up in it as much as anybody else. So it's hard for me to speak from the mountaintop and say, oh, this is so petty. I've been so petty before on Twitter and everywhere else. So I could be, but now that I'm not going to be anymore. Now I can stand on the mountain and say, oh, I have learned, and so now I'm not going to do that anymore.
One other thing I want to make sure that people know about you, we've touched on it, I think, over time every so often, but you composed the theme song for the theme music, I should say, for Mac Notables, and I'm going to make sure that that's part of this episode so people recognize and remember it, because we haven't been using it since we made the transition over to Mac Notables on MacVoices.
What?
Yeah, I know. Well,
did you read my contract?
That's why the royalty payments stopped coming. So,
royalty payments?
Yeah, yeah.
Clearly, I've not been paying attention.
Yeah, go check your mailbox.
Oh yeah.
But you've written a lot of music for a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, I've been doing that more. Largely, it was because at Macworld we expanded, thanks to Jason Snell, who's been doing was doing more podcasting there, he'd say, we're going to do podcasts. We're going to do clockwise podcasts, for example. How about a theme if you're not busy? Sure. And I did, and I liked doing it. So it was kind of fun because I would get basically assignments like, here's this kind of podcast. What do you think? Let's give it a go. Much like when I did the podcast theme for you. You said, I'm going to do a podcast. Do you want to do the music for it? All right, fine. So it's kind of it's a nice challenge. One of the things that Jason's been doing with The Incomparable, he's done a couple of radio theater broadcasts. So those were a hoot, where he said, you're not getting paid except in T-shirts. Do you want to give it a go? And I thought that would be a fascinating challenge. So I've done a couple of those, and it's just kind of like old-timey radio music in some cases. Essentially, I took the first theme that I wrote for Incomparable, and everything I did after that was a variation of that theme. So there's like the square dance variation, there's the Downton Abbey variation. I've twisted that theme into so many ways, I can't even begin to count them. But it makes for a very easy thing because you don't have to worry about a melody. All you know is, well, I know what the melody is and I know what the chord progression is. I just have to arrange it differently. So, I'm still doing that stuff. I'm going to do some more of that for Jason. A couple of people have contacted me about doing themes for their podcast show. I'm going to charge them. But yeah, it's a nice thing to have that kind of creative outlet so that I don't have to think about whatever it is I'm thinking about at the time, in regard to my job, and instead think of musician Chris Breen, which I like to exercise that part of my brain as well.
As I recall, when I said something to you about doing some music for it, you said, well, what are you looking for? And I said, something like, lots of electric guitars and, the drums and, the bass, hard bass line. And what I got back was this synth wash, calm, soothing thing. And it's like, okay, that's not what I was looking for, but it actually works. I hate to admit it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I knew what was good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
I know your tastes, and I just wasn't going to do that.
We've gone down that road. I keep trying to get you to catch a little more energy, but you just sit behind the keys and keep on going.
I'm a keyboard player. We don't do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't. It's just, where most of us are classically trained, and, you can get the stand-up keyboard thing where it sort of looks like a guitar, but you just look silly. If you're going to be a guitar player, be a guitar player, but otherwise, sit down, play the keys.
Yeah, but the whole Keith Emerson thing, with stabbing the organ with the knife and all. I mean, didn't that ever inspire you?
Where's Keith today?
I just can't answer. Yeah,
because we don't know.
Can't answer.
No, I liked that stuff. I loved Keith Emerson. I liked Rick Wakeman back in the day when he was rushing around with his cape and playing 17 different keyboards. That was all great stuff, but exhausting. And I'm not that kind of player. I had a reputation when I would play in bars and people say, I really love the way you play, but I'm now so depressed. And I just say, have another drink, step out into the snow.
See, where I think you went wrong is you didn't use the cape. You should have gotten a Rick Wakeman cape. That could have changed your life.
It could have. I did smear Cheese Whiz on my face at one point for a performance. I will say, recommendation on that one is don't use the jalapeno flavor one. It burns like crazy, and it's a bad idea.
Well, okay, I can't let that go, Chris. Why Cheese Whiz? What?
It was there. It was just one of those moments where there was the can of cheese was there. There was I, and it just needed that. It's a little extra something. So,
seemed like a good idea at the time.
Well, it did, and that was after the taping the shoe to my head with duct tape incident, which turns out was a very poor idea as well, because it's hard to take duct tape off, particularly when it's in your hair.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like the best move.
No.
Oh, okay. Serious question along the music lines, because I did see something the other day in your Twitter stream that you were playing with someone somewhere one night, and I didn't recognize the name. So how many bands do you perform with at this point?
Oh, I'm in two bands now. So I have my regular band called System 9,
Right.
and that's the seven-piece rock, rhythm, and blues band. But I'm also playing with Paul Kent, and this is called the Black Sunday Roadshow. It's a 16-piece band, and we play Americana music. So it has horn section, an amazing steel guitar player, three backup singers, a banjo player, two guitarists, bass, me playing keyboards, fiddler, good fiddler, and I think that's everybody.
I'm embarrassed. I did not know that Black Sunday Roadshow was Paul's band. I think I've seen the name on Twitter go by a couple times and just never made the connection. So
Yeah, it was a kind of a side project for him that he's got his regular band, the Silicon Valley House Rockers, and they play all the time, just as my band used to play all the time. And he was looking for an outlet for a kind of music that he couldn't do with his band. And he's been wanting to play with me for years because we do the Macworld All-Star Band together. And it was the perfect band for me because he said, we're only going to rehearse once a month and we're only going to gig 4 times a year. How about it? Which was fine. That was the kind of time I could commit to doing something else without taking away attention from my own band. So it's just been a hoot. It really is just a ton of fun. We play probably 2 sets, and it's just a huge band and such great players in it that it's really a lot of fun.
that's great. That's great. Well, is there a website or I'm sure there is.
I think there is. I think he's probably got a Facebook page. I don't do Facebook, so
Yeah.
don't know. But yeah, if you look up Black Sunday Roadshow, I'm sure something will show up.
I'll find it and put it in the show notes. Definitely.
Cool.
Definitely. I don't know what else to say except thanks. It's been a great run. I always enjoy, as we always get on here and have, I don't know which one of us is worse. We just play off of each other and have a lot of fun. Hopefully we've given the folks some good information, and I just wish you the very best of luck in the new ventures.
Thanks. It's been just an amazing career. It's again, I was trained as a musician. I came up as a musician. I never thought that I would do what I have done. I've had the opportunity to do so many things. Basically, people have been incredibly nice to me and just said, you want to do this? Sure, I'd love to try that. And that allowed me to do podcasting before there was podcasting, and do screencasts before there were screencasts, and do goofy videos and write reviews and just do anything that one could do in the Apple space. And there was a lot of room to play. And then to be able to get up and talk to people and have them listen to you and laugh and treat you like you're a big deal when you're just another schmo in the room, but except you're the guy with the lights on you, so you're a different sort of schmo for that period of time. But I've just been really blessed throughout my life. I've been able to do exactly what I wanted to do throughout my career, and now it's time for me to get a real job because I've never had one before. And I think last time we talked, I think this was just after the layoffs, and I said, I've had this great life, and if I can cross the finish line without having to get up to an alarm or wear a tie or basically do anything I don't want to do, I win. And as I've considered this career shift, it occurred to me that he was comfortable as his epitaph is not something to be proud of. And so I've been doing this a long time, and I've had a wonderful time doing it, but I've been very comfortable doing it. It's challenging. I mean, it's always challenging, but I know I can do it, and I can wander down to my office and work all day and get up and do the next thing. Do the same kind of thing the next day. This is going to be a challenge for me. This is entirely new. It's going to completely upset my life in that I have to leave the house to go to work, which I haven't had to do for a long time, and get up to an alarm and think about what I'm going to wear and buy clothes so that I look presentable, and collaborate with people more than I've done in the past. I will have to commute, and it's all going to be very interesting. And so that's kind of the way I look at it, as it's a grown-up challenge. I'm going to be a grown-up now, and work for a company that is doing amazing stuff. So to be a grown-up and work for a company that's doing amazing stuff sounds like a good next move. So that's what I'm going to do.
I think you've been a grown up for a long time. You just were manifesting it in a little bit different fashion, and so now you're going to take it another way. You made it sound like at the start of that this is the end of a great career, and it's not the end of a great career. This is just a shift in a great career.
It's a different career. I think it's very much the end of a chapter. I just, I've thought of myself as being this, and I think throughout my career, I mean, I've had 3 jobs basically. I've been a preschool teacher, and then I wasn't, and then I was a musician. And even though there was crossover to writing, I was a professional musician solely for this period of time, and then I wasn't. And now I've been a magazine writer and a website writer for a period of time, and now I'm not going to be. And I'm not going to be a public speaker, and I'm not going to be a podcaster. I'm not going to be a video guy. I won't be doing lynda.com stuff. I'm not going to write books anymore. So that chapter is done. That book is closed. So now I'm going to be a different thing. And that is actually more comforting to me, I think, than thinking that this is somehow a shift from what I have been doing. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't have gotten the job I have without the experience I had prior to this. But I'm looking at this as a completely different thing. And that I'm going to be a different person than I was before. And so my hair will not be nearly as famous unless I get into a fight with Craig Federighi. And which case I trust that my hair will win. However, he's got the eyebrows going for him. So I think he ultimately wins that one. Plus, he's higher up in the food chain than I'll be. So, if he tells me to shave my head, I'll have to. Yeah. So anyway, that's how I view it. I mean, I see it as, yes, it's part of a stream, but at the same time, to me, it's very separate.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. And the Body of Breen Twitter account will continue, so we'll still be able to get some of your wisdom and some of your commentary, maybe just not quite the same kind and not as much, if any, tech.
It shouldn't change that much, honestly, which is because I so rarely write about tech in my Twitter stream. I think people follow me for that reason, and then they look at what I normally put out there and go, why am I following this guy? Because he's not really doing it. So
I've had that thought myself a few times.
I know. And it's yesterday when this was announced that I was leaving, I gained a couple of hundred followers, and I just thought, man, they are going to be so disappointed when they find out what I really do. It's like, oh, pictures of the beach. Great. Oh, left-wing politics. Awesome. I'm so glad I've chosen. And clearly, if, when I'm working at this Cupertino company, I'm going to say nothing about what I do. So I expect in a couple of weeks, there's just going to be a drastic fall off in my followers. And that's okay.
Like you say, a change.
It is a change.
A change. Thank you for everything, Chris. I really appreciate all the time you've given to me and to this show, but to me in particular. We've had a lot of fun together, had a few laughs, and the seat is always open. It may be retired, but it's always open in the event that circumstances allow you to come back.
Well, thanks. I mean, I can't imagine I'm going to do this forever. I hope that I won't keel over on my job, and that on the other end is probably retirement. At which point I will come back and tell you nothing of what I'd done during those years. And we'll pick it up making fun of heavy metal music and
keyboard players.
There's no reason to make fun of keyboard players.
Yep. I am going to miss this.
And quite seriously, I have so enjoyed every second of it. So thank you, and again, thanks to everybody who's paid any small amount of attention to what I've done over the past several years.